Okay. Okay. I've got to admit, things got a little crazy. Like last week, we went on an emo-driven uh road trip. Okay, that's all, that's all that we're gonna call it. Emo-driven road trip. They took away my eyeliner, if you can't tell. And we're in just a little bit of trouble now. All right, we have been arrested. We haven't been charged. Well, we haven't been convicted of anything yet. That's the real thing. But I hope you like my new outfit because I could be wearing these colors 20 to life. Good thing I look good in stripes, I guess. They didn't take my piercing though. Anyway, in case you're wondering why we're here, other than I need character witnesses, please leave your best compliments in the comments below. Shh, this is not fishing. This is not fishing. But anyways, today is LMIAY. That is the best video of the month. I gave you guys a prompt last month. You guys have delivered, and now we're going to listen to your guys' creativity, your exploration, your stories. But first, I'm not getting sentenced. Don't worry about it. First, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through LMIAY, which is what we're here for today. I gave you a new prompt starting yesterday. And if you write a story using that prompt, submit it. Next month, you can be read and celebrated and just share your vision. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more readers find your work. Could be me, could not be me. I can't make any promises, but the best that I can do is share based on the channel that I have. The third thing is if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. Please enjoy them, love them, look forward to the book that I'm finally being more responsible with at this very moment. It's good to get back in the swing of things, and that's really what's going on. Anyway, with that said, let's get into this month's prompt. Let's get into your guys' creativity. We have been paused long enough on this, and also I don't know how long I have until they call me in. So with that said, enjoy. The prompt last month was write a story that involves an arrest being made. My entire life is an arrest of sorts. Arrested Development, home arrested, arrested by the youth. Anyway, here we go. The first story is by Mae Tanner. The guards shoved an assault to his knees in front of Dackel's seat. He glanced around. Dackel's men had gathered 5 more Dearborn. The others were all younger than him. One girl was little more than a toddler. Beside the door, a handful of women wept on each other's shoulders. Nassault's gaze shifted to his mother, who gazed at the activity with her usual stony expression. Their eyes met, and for a moment her face softened. Dackel rapped on the arm of his seat, drawing everyone's attention to him. Dackel sneered at the youngsters huddled before him. Our earliest legends tell of a custom known as the harvest. Before they brought us to Cap Roland, the beloved would order hunters to kill the weakest citizens in order to reduce the population. We abandoned this custom while we lived in Cap Roland, but now that we live on Thierend, I think it's time to reinstate it. Only we won't kill our wheat. Instead, we'll kill any dearborn born to our women. Congratulations on being the first to be harvested on Thierend. We'll even give you a head start. You have 1 hour to flee into the mountains before the harvest begins. He pointed at the door. Go. See how far you get. Nassault grabbed the toddler as guards bundled them outside. The townsfolk lined the way and pelted them with stones as they fled. The fugitives huddled in a hollow hidden by a berry patch. Nassault passed around handfuls of the fruit. Elnie comforted Ingra, feeding the toddler berries. How can we escape? She whispered. Where can we go to be safe? Ronus scowled. Why are we hiding? We should be running if we want to live. Fanay and Heerlin hugged each other, staring at the older Dearborn with wide eyes. Nassault turned to Rona. If we run when it's light out, they'll chase us down and kill us for sure. Do you think we can outrun Hadfell? We need to hide until dark if we're going to get away. Ronus gathered himself. You can all stay. You can all stay here if that's what you want. I'm going to run. Nassault pounced on the younger boy, pinning him to the ground. You'll put the rest of us at risk if you run, he hissed in Ronus's ear. As the pair struggled silently. The sound of hoofbeats drifted to their hiding place. The boys froze, then peered through the bushes. A band of hunters riding the beasts they called Hadville rode past. The color drained from Ronus's face, and the salt squeezed his shoulder. If he hadn't stopped him, the younger boy would have been in the open when the riders approached. Nasalt met the youngster's eyes with his gaze. I'm 17. That means I qualify as an adult. You're all younger than me. From now on, you do as I say without question. We don't want anyone to run into the arms of the hunters, do we? The others all shook their heads. Okay now, we only move when it's dark out. I'll carry Ingra when we're on the move since she's too young to walk. He eyed the oldest girl. Elni, you keep Ingra quiet during the day. She's too young to understand what's happening to us. The fugitives reached a pass through the western mountains at sunrise. The far side of the pass opened onto the canyon, running roughly north and south. Nasalt led the others into the field of boulders on the side of the southern mountain. Everyone look for a place to hide. The youngsters scattered. Fanay found the best hiding place, a cave with a small opening they had to crawl through. Nasalt grinned at the girl. Good find. That evening, they turned south. With an escape thing, well, technically, it's not really an escape, sort of, because they were set out. I mean, it is, but it's not, because they're obviously on their way trying to get out. But also, it is an escape thing. But with something like this, since I saw Oh Brother, Where Art Thou for the first time this year, just a couple of months ago, not even a couple of months, it feels like weeks ago, because it does not feel like it was that long ago at all. But since I saw it for the first time, running from after getting out of jail is making me think of that. Maybe it's the stripes. Maybe I should watch it again sometime soon. I don't know. But that's what I'm thinking. And it's got fondness around it at this point. This is a nice intro to the dangers in this world, and the tension is obvious, and the teamwork, and also obviously showing that there is a coming of age part to this story, because you have Nasalt talking about being 17 and being the leader of the group and having to become the leader of the group. And so that gives a good reference to a coming of age story involved in the rest of Mae Tanner's story, at least from the perspective of Nasalt. Whether it's the larger arc or part of a larger arc, there's no telling from this, but very nice, Mae. The next story is by M.K. McKeever. What's chick-kiting? Persephone was so shocked she didn't realize Portia had spoken for a minute. She opened her mouth to speak and then realized that she wasn't sure what chick-kiting was either. She knew it was a crime that people committed, but she didn't know what it was. They were all squeezed on the couch. Soren sat next to Persephone, who was next to Pixie, who just had wrapped an arm around Portia. Rain was sitting on the couch arm, elbows on her knees. Mr. Sheldrake stood in front of them with Albertine, who was clutching her infant son tightly, while her husband seemed to be trying to think of how to explain chick-kiting to a 7-year-old. Well, Mr. Sheldrake began, shifting awkwardly. It's when you put money from one account into another to steal it from the bank. But how does that steal money from the bank? Soren piped up, apparently unable to help himself. Persephone might have found it endearing were it not for the ocean currently ringing in her ear. Well, you see, there's this thing the bank has called a float. Suddenly, Persephone burst out laughing. Everything their mother had done, the trail of broken hearts, ruined lives, and stolen jewelry, and what got her arrested was chick-kiting? Steffi? Soren asked, sounding concerned. Mr. Sheldrake crouched down in front of Persephone. I won't pretend to understand what you're going through. I'm sorry, Persephone managed to say between bursts of laughter. We've spent the last years zigzagging across the country, passed out gold like it was candy, trying to pay back everyone she robbed, tried to get Cole and his company back, and the thing that got her arrested was chick-kiting? That's like when they got Al Capone for freaking tax evasion. Was it a bad sign that she just compared her own mother to Al Capone? She howled with laughter, unable to stop herself. That was when she felt the thick arms of her boyfriend and the skinny arms of her adopted sister wrap around her, as her half-sister crawled into her arms, wrapping her arms around her waist. What would happen to Portia now? She was still so young, and Colin still wasn't in a state to take care of her. Did that ever occur to her mother? What would happen to her daughter when her lifestyle caught up to her? Of course it did. That was when the laughter turned to tears. She was crying so hard she couldn't see the fourth and fifth sets of arms that wrapped around her. Her ex-stepsister and the father she barely knew. Were they at least happy? Was this justice for them too? In the background, she could hear Albertine speaking gently to someone. Marnie must have come out from her room. That was her last coherent thought for a while. She just kept sobbing, her arms hugging her, holding her, until she was too tired to cry anymore. She leaned back into someone's arms, Soren's maybe, before the world faded out. She wasn't aware that she had woken up for a few moments. She slowly opened her eyes and found herself staring at a shaggy black dog curled up on the floor. Soren? She grogged, noticing the fabric at the periphery of her vision. She raised up, watching an earth-toned quilt fall off of her. You fell asleep, Soren explained, walking over and laying his head on her legs, which were still covered in the quilt. That was when everything came rushing back. She reached out, running a hand through Soren's comforting thick fur. Sometimes it was good to have a boyfriend who could double as an emotional support dog. It was about that time when she heard footsteps from the kitchen, and Albertine saying, "She came into view." Good. You're up. She came into view with a tray holding sandwich and a cup of something steaming. I doubt that you feel like eating. Still, I thought that you might be hungry. Persephone slowly sat up. Where is everybody? Portia's playing with Marnie in her room, and after you... It started to hit Pixie, and Rain thought that it might be a good idea to get her out of the house. She set the tray down on the coffee table. Your dad's on the phone with Portia's father. They're trying to work out if she can stay with us until Cullen's... Well, you know. That was relief. Just then, the smell of cinnamon and vanilla wafted towards Persephone's nose. Carefully leaning towards the offered food and drink, she picked up the mug, staring at the brown of creamy brown liquid still giving off steam. Hot chocolate? It's your favorite, right? Albertine responded, sitting down in a chair. I remember after fleeing the spring court, there was a pie shop and a gas station that sold a handheld version of mincemeat. They weren't exactly like what we were used to, but they were close enough to be familiar. To be comforting? Persephone guessed. Well, yes, exactly, Albertine confirmed. It didn't fix the situation, make the pain go away, but it helped for a few moments. Persephone cautiously licked the surface of the drink, tasting milk chocolate mixed with vanilla, cinnamon, maybe honey. I thought it'd feel different, she said, finally. I mean, I'm happy that she finally is facing some kind of karma, but you're sad too, Albertine said. And you don't even know why? Persephone nodded. Yes, that was exactly it. I found in life that it's entirely impossible to love someone and hate them at the exact same time, Albertine mused. Your dad struggled with it too. He was so angry, but she was still the mother of his child. He missed who he thought she was. Persephone wasn't sure if her mother even knew who she was. Maybe that's why she had so many aliases. Persephone wasn't sure if her mother even knew who she was. Maybe that's why she had so many aliases. And now he just pities her, Albertine said. How she can't seem to get out of her own way. Persephone thought her stepmother may have a point there. This is a very nice, quiet moment, and I also like the idea. So it's obviously the prompt was a story that involves an arrest, but it's a secondary experience of the arrest, not the person getting arrested. And so then you get to see the experience with the family that is dealing with it or is related to the person who was arrested. And I really like it. And I think this is a very nice, like, quiet moment. And obviously Persephone is having to think through the experiences that her mother had, that her family has had with her mother, and the relationships in her family and what she's experienced. And I think the relationships, especially with the stepmom here with Albertine, is done very well to show this tenderness between the two of them. The next story is by Egao Chan called Holy Secret. You've got to be kidding me, Zhao Ming. Dubai's bark at his childhood friend broke the silence in the police car. Spraying dog urine at a hotel? At this time of night? What the hell, man? Black dog urine, Wu Xiaoming corrected his friend, who was now his arresting officer. Like it matters, Dubé growled. I thought that you went clean. After all you've put your father through, I thought you'd... What were you thinking? I was doing an exorcism, Wu Xiaoming explained. You know, I can't really get my hands on black dog blood or male virgin urine, so I had to use the next best thing. Black dog urine. The frown lines between Dubé's brows were deep enough to catch a fly. What the hell are you even talking about? Are you on drugs again? No! Wu Xiaoming grabbed the metal net separating the front seat from the back seat. Don't you remember the old tales? Black dog blood and male virgin urine are full of yang energy that could repel and even destroy malevolent spirits. There's a really nasty one haunting that hotel. Didn't you guys find someone who died of strange circumstances there last week? Forensics said it was a suicide. But it's weird, wasn't it? Wu Xiaoming insisted. The guy was new to this place, fully packed, a lot of cash in hand, and even had a cruise booked for later. Does that sound like someone who'd want to off himself just randomly in a hotel? And how did he kill himself? Choking himself by hand? You know that's not possible without at least a rope. That's classified information. How did you know that? Dubai raised his voice. Not important. Wu Xiaoming shook his head. The thing is, you have to let me go. I barely even started and that thing might kill again. Hold on. Dubai pulled over to the side of the road, fighting the tightness in his lower abdomen. He might have drunk too much coffee today. Are you telling me that you think that there is going to be another death? I don't think I know. Wu Xiaoming almost put his face against the metal net. Black hand marks on the back of the neck, and maybe some other parts of the body as well. Does that sound familiar to you? Dubai frowned but did not respond. What Wu Xiaoming said contained too much detailed, secret information not released to the public. This friend of his was many things, but connected to law enforcement on this level he surely was not. Yet there was no other explanation as to why his friend would know all of that. The rumors about his friend that he heard on the streets and from family came to mind. He had been running around town talking with people about rituals, ghosts, and haunted locations. So, what do you say? Can you let me out? I really need to finish the exorcism because I only sprayed a little bit of urine around and it would have only pissed the spirit off. No. Dubai took a deep breath and shook his head. I can't let you do that. I need to book you and contact the owner. If they want to press charges, come on. Wu Xiaoming groaned. How about you book me later, like after I wrap things up? Are you freaking insane? Dubai stared at Wu Xiaoming. That's right this moment. He could not get another word out. Numbing cold spread through his entire body. His legs froze, his arms were losing strength, and his breaths were getting weak. Shit! Where'd you put the urine? Wu Xiaoming barked and banged on the metal net. He could not get through, even though the net was losing its original strength with the impact. He tried to open the doors, but they were locked. Hold on, damn it! Dubai, hold on! As his life force left him, Dubai's vision grew dark, and more of the bodily functions gave out. His breathing was almost undetectable, and his heart was about to stop. A warmth pooled around his crotch, then spread down his legs. At that very moment, an ear-piercing scream exploded right before Dubai's face. A dark shadow manifested in the air, then shot out of the driver's side window into the night. Dubai gasped as the control over his own body came back to him. He opened the door, fell out of the squad car, then dragged himself to the open back door. Wu Xiaoming caught him as he sat down on the ground, checking him up and down. What happened? Dubai asked, a voice barely audible. Well, looks like you drank too much water. Wu Xiaoming chuckled as he pointed at Dubai's crotch. What? Dubai looked down. God damn it! Hey, it's probably for the best. Wu Xiaoming chuckled. Props to you for keeping your oath, though. What, waiting until marriage? Well, Dubai scratched his head. I mean, it didn't take much effort, really. I've been so busy. Hey, are you a wizard now? Wu Xiaoming's face turned serious. Can you throw fireballs? What? They say if a guy's past 20 and he's still a virgin, he would become a wizard. At your age, you must be a pretty high-level one. Dubai sighed and then stood up. Get in the fucking car. I'm booking you. No, please, no. Look, what are these rules with being a virgin and getting powers? We need interested parties would like to know. When it mentioned his pants for a second there, I was like, wait a second. Did Wu Xiaoming pee on him through the grate to get the ghost, but then the baddie out, but then also I was like, this has very much John dies at the end vibes. Like, that is similar audience for sure. I always love what you do, Egao. It is so fun to see the ideas that you go with. The next story is by F. Jeremiah Chamberlain. Friday, 25 May of 1905. Late at night, an unannounced and unwelcome patron paid W.B. Mason private investigation a visit. He let himself in with a rake and detention tool, freezing when the old hinges of the door croaked. Seeing no one to greet him, he stepped into the shadow. In the corner of the apartment office was a small cot that served dutifully as a king-sized bed. The man crept up to it and produced a knife. He decided his footing, tried to make out his target, and raised the blade. "When did you get out of prison?" The man froze and dropped the knife. It took him a few seconds, but he regained enough of his composure to respond. "Not long ago. They let me out on good conduct. If breaking into a man's home with the intent to murder constitutes good, no wonder this city has the reputation that it does. Chuck the knife. The gun, too. I know that you have one." Both the knife and a sidearm clattered across the floor toward the desk. Another man's face shone dimly in the light of a match, which went to light a cigar. The intruder looked at where he thought he threw his weapon, but the idea proved stillborn as the desk lamp turned on to reveal Willard Mason sitting there, feet up, cigar smoking, and his .44 Bates and Bailey in his hand. "How'd you know that I was coming?" Nicholas Peralta asked. "Gringo's intuition," Willard answered. There was no need to disclose that he was such a lousy pickpocket that he'd woken him up in the act. "So, what's the favor?" "Your boss wanted me knocked off. That was the idea, as far as I know. You're a sly bastard. But there isn't a whole bunch that you seem to know to begin with." Despite lording over the present situation, Willard was worried. Not only was this the second time someone broke into his one-room residence and place of business in a month, but both were ordered by petty and vindictive overlords who, silver lining and all, seemed to have it out for each other. All the same, Willard hated the squeezing sensation that he felt. "You have a backup?" the detective asked. No, it's just me." At the sound of the revolver clicking, Nicholas amended his answer to, "Oh, one in the hallway, two in the lobby." A faint, suffocated giggle came from behind the open door. Both Willard and Nicholas glanced over with pangs of anxiety, the latter for quite obvious reasons, but the former because it sounded familiar. "All right. Start heading for the door," Willard ordered, standing up. "Let's go say good evening to your friend." Nicholas shrugged and nodded, hanging his head low in defeat. For a brief moment, as they walked toward the door, Willard felt sorry for the poor sod, bungling a sensitive and embarrassing contest fix, and now a simple murder. Nicholas's master wouldn't at all be pleased with his flagging performance. Willard felt sorry for him, but not enough to soften the blow of the pistol across the back of his head. The second blow landed. Willard spun around and leapt out of one of the windows. He had slid it open, while Nicholas was fumbling with the lock as insurance, and the rushing footsteps behind him vindicated him. However, he misjudged the distance from the window and the ledge of the fire escape and flipped over the railing. With his spare hand, he grabbed the wrought iron just before falling 5 stories down to the hard cobblestone. He threw himself down to the next level of the fire escape and started hopping down the flight of stairs. Once on the street, he looked up and heard someone rushing down the fire escape after. The lack of chasing gunfire confused. Wasn't this supposed to be a hit? No matter. Those questions could wait. He headed down a lit alleyway despite the pit in his stomach. It was more visible and in the direction of the two other shocks Nicholas betrayed, but it was closer to the main street, which would allow him to slip away into the night fast. No sooner had this opportunity crossed Willard's mind than it was immediately squandered. 2 cops rounded the corner and ran right into him. His .44 flew from his hand as the 2 shoved him into a wall. One fumbled for handcuffs while the other ordered him to stop resisting. Even though Willard was perfectly fluent in Spanish, he elected not to understand. Using the wall as leverage, he unbalanced the one trying to restrain him and kicked him away. His friend tried beating him with a nightstick, but the blow landed on dusty brick as Willard dodged out of his grip. The detective gave him a powerful right cross to untangle his left hand. The other cop dodged his friend and leapt onto Willard, keeping him at bay with his extended right arm. Willard punched him with his other hand once in the gut and again across the face. A billy club landed at the base of his neck, right when the cop fell to the floor. Willard seized up, but for a moment, catching the second blow in his hand and arresting the strike midair. The detective kicked him once before grappling him and throwing him into a wall. Satisfied, he looked around for his gun. 2 large, broad hands clamped down on his shoulders and in turn threw Willard against the wall. His feet had hardly touched the ground again when a massive fist pinned him against the brick to his back. When it retracted, Willard collapsed and vomited what was left of his supper. "Miss Ames said that she wanted you unharmed." a burly, dumb voice said. Nice job, you stupid lot, Willard replied when he was done throwing up. One of the cops rolled him onto his stomach, smearing his face in his vomit as he clasped cuffs on him. It took a few attempts to stand him up, but when he finally regained his footing, he found himself face to face with a white... What are you doing up on a school night? Willard asked. Macy cocked her head and smiled wide, rising a little on her toe. Saving you. Daddy wanted you dead, but I think I need you for a little project of mine. I have a business number, you know. It was an emergency. She said this as she walked past him, turning his head her way by the clean side of his face. Awkward looks between the cops and a giant Chio provided just a little comfort. Sure, Willard muttered. I always love overtime. This has really good flow for a fight scene. Like, fight scenes are hard. Fight scenes are underestimated how difficult they are to do for blocking, because you have to be very clear in where your characters are. You can't do too much detail that it gets lost in like what the characters are doing. It is so easy to get lost, and fight scenes are a type of dance. And this did a fight slash action scene so well to both build the tension, keep momentum going, and the clarity of the movement that F. Chamberlain, fantastic job. I have to say that because you've got it, man. So bizarre. The next story is by R.S. Alessi. Get a room. I know I'm fucked when the handcuffs click around my wrist. Normally I'm careful. I find victims who won't fight back. I go to secluded spots. I check for witnesses. I've been so careful for so long that I assumed that I'd never get caught. But here I am, sitting in the slimy backseat of a Ford Explorer. I don't feel invulnerable now. They transport me to the county lockup, and there's the humiliation of stripping out of my beautiful clothes a 3-piece linen suit that costs more than the correction officer's annual salary. He shoves it into a bag. Bend over and cough. I have a surprise for them, but it's not hidden inside my body. It comes when I stand for my mugshot. Look at the camera. I wink. Huh. Let's try this again. It's 10 minutes and the humans are swarming like ants around the camera. They're muttering about electromagnetic fields and fluorescent lighting. One of them has the genius idea to try his phone. He gets the same results. Eventually they remember that they can ask me why I don't show up on the screens. Sometimes I come up with ridiculous answers. I'm an escaped government experiment and I have a device implanted in my chest cavity that repels light waves. Sometimes I go with the truth. I'm a vampire. Nice try, wise guy. Aren't you supposed to see a judge when that's gonna happen? My pace slows. I can't stay here. Too bad, asshole. The officer stops at one of the cells. It's bright and grimy and full of crusty humans in ill-fitted jumpsuits. He says something, but all I hear is dull buzzing. My nose burns from the mingling scents of urine and antiseptic, body odors and cheap cologne. A hand shoves me and I stumble forward. The door grinds shut behind me. Occupying my cell is an every flavor assortment of human race. Most of them avoid eye contact. A couple of them hold my gaze like they're hopping for a fight. I weigh my options. A fight will not make my situation better, so I drop my gaze. I must find a way out of here. You want some dope? I smell him before I see him. The greasy-haired human creeping up my elbow, a testament to my distraction that he got so close. I don't consider his offer. I do consider the method of transport. How do you get dope in here? He waggles his eyebrows and bares his teeth at me. He looks ridiculous. It occurs to me that someone savvy enough to sneak dope into a jail knows the system's weaknesses. The key to my release may lie inside this feral human's head. If only I ask the right question. I don't want dope, but maybe you can help me with something else? He bobs his head like a hyena, and I conclude that he's hit the drug he's selling 1 times too many. I already know the judge won't be in until morning, and the cell door is beyond my lock-picking skills. Starting a fight will only get me moved to a different cell, and what happens if I become ill? The greasy-head man takes a half-step back. Don't Ralph on me. The idea that anything could disgust a human who smells as bad as he does makes me laugh. It's a mistake I can't take back. His eyes widen and he stumbles away from me. I raise my palms, a gesture of harmlessness. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you if you answer my questions. The human's eyes dart wildly, like he's looking for an escape. But of course we are locked in a jail cell and there's no place to hide. I don't want no trouble, he says. You get sick and they take you to see the nurse. You get real sick and they haul your ass to the hospital. I smile again. This time, I intentionally reveal my long canines because who's gonna believe him? He lets out a terrified squeak and scuttles to the corner. I clutch my heart, make the noise humans make right before they die and slump to the floor. Someone shouts. The cell door grinds open. Hands touch me all over, poking, checking for a pulse. Get the AED here, now. Well, shit. It's tough to stay dead while a burly officer is cracking my ribs with an overzealous chest compression. Tougher still when a machine is counting down the electrocution time. Stay dead, I tell myself. It's the last thought I have before 1,000 volts short circuits my brain. Stay dead. The first thought I have when my body unclenches. I endure another round of chest compressions. They shock me a few more times before they decide that I'm not coming back. Hands push and tug, and I'm zipped into a bag. A short ride later, the bag is unzipped. Yep, that's a stiff. Put it with the rest. I almost smile as they zip me back up. I count off the minutes, feeling not unlike a butterfly ready to escape the chrysalis. A full 20 pass before I emerge. I find my personal effects labeled and stored on a nearby shelf. That's great, because the orange jumpsuit I'm currently wearing would attract unwanted attention. It's damn convenient sometimes, not showing up on camera. Then there are moments like this one. Nobody sees me, and then there are moments like this one. Nobody sees me leave the morgue in my slightly rumpled suit. Nobody questions me when I walk out of the hospital. The pre-dawn air warms my more chilled bones as I compose my newest resolution. Get a room. Very nice. I love the way that you use vampires. I love that vampires are also very constant in your work, and you find new and interesting ways to use them in very different situations. I also really love the attitudes of your characters. Dude with a suit that is worth more than the cop makes annually. Great description that both shows character and also a detail of the expense. The next story is by Fayanzār. This story was actually written for previous LMIAY, hence the cryptid, but it didn't get in time, but it also contains an arrest. So it's a double LMIAY, which you can definitely combine them in general. It's been a pretty decent working day, except for one thing. I forgot my lunchbox at home. I didn't feel like eating greasy pizza from a local place, so I chose mild starvation instead. As I enter my house now, I head straight for the kitchen, and there I see a bipedal dog looking creature, all covered in matted dark yellow fur. This thing is standing right next to the fridge, holding something in its hands, and when it finally spots me, its fur stands on end and its muzzle contorts into a frightened grimace. Without thinking, I dash towards the counter and grab the first knife that I can reach, a very sharp 8-inch Japanese santoku, and direct it at the creature. Aiden, I call out, we've got a visitor. Nah, mate, comes an annoyed rumble from upstairs. I'd smell anyone who. Get your ass fucking down here, I yell at the top of my lungs, and bring those bloody handcuffs. The canine creature flinches, lets out an undignified whimper, and clutches whatever it's holding even more tight. I hear an exasperated huff, followed by the soft rumble of Aiden's footsteps as he comes down the stairs. He enters the kitchen, and his mouth already open for a snarky remark, but it fades on his lips as soon as he spots the visitor. The fuck? He tilts his head, his eyebrows raising impossibly high. The fuck? I mutter, looking at the fluffy pink handcuffs he's holding. No, don't answer. The fuck? I mutter, looking at the fluffy pink handcuffs he's holding. No, don't answer, I added quickly, snatching them from his hand. Better tell me, what the fuck is this thing? The creature whimpers again as I take a step closer and still extends its hands obedient. Meanwhile, Aiden transforms. It takes him only a second, and once he's in his lupine form, he sniffs the air loud. Suddenly, a flicker of recognition crosses his face. Ah. He exhales slowly. It's the Michigan dog man. My eye twitches. I feel the urge to get another pair of handcuffs and chain Aiden to the creature. Aiden? I say blankly. We're not in Michigan. Then it's the Brisbane dog man, he rumbles. How the hell would I? Melbourne, the creature says. What? Aiden and I both turn toward the dog man simultaneously. I'm from Melbourne, the creature says in a surprisingly high-pitched voice. Moved here a year ago. So you speak, I say in a flat voice. Sure does, Aiden agrees, coming closer to me. Why wouldn't I? The dogman sounds almost offended now. I exhale slowly again. At this point, I'm not even sure what I want to do with the knife that I'm still holding. Stab him, Aiden, myself, or just straight throw it out the window. Maybe because you look like an overgrown stray dog? I say bluntly. Now, I point at the thing he's clutching with my knife. What do you have there? The dogman extends his shaking hand toward me, holding out the package. I snatch it and hand it over to Aiden at once. All right, what do we have here? He mumbles, unwrapping the plastic bag. Oh, with a blank face, he pulls out half a baguette, then a chunk of cheese. I immediately recognize it comes from the block of sharp cheddar that I bought yesterday. Why cheese? I ask after a short moment of silence, lowering the knife. Because I was hungry, mate. His voice makes an embarrassing crack. Dogmen even like cheese? Aiden asks, scratching his head. Do werewolves like cheese, you smartass? The dogman retorts. I let out a sharp, amused exhale through my nose. Yes, I say. No, Aiden says. I look at Aiden with utter betrayal. I look at Aiden with an utterly betrayed expression, the knife in my hand and the dogman totally forgotten. What do you mean, no? I ask. You liked the Gouda, didn't you? Well, I mean, not all of it. Aiden backs up. Brie, for example. Yeah, I can wait, the dogman interrupts. Take your time. My entire face twitches violently now. It's starting to feel like I've gotten into a fever dream. I take a few deep breaths and then put the knife back on the counter, still out of the dogman's reach. All right, I say. Let's start all over again. Who the hell are you and how did you end up here? From now on, everything gradually becomes clear. It turns out the dogman even has a name. Hunter. Ironic, isn't it? And he used to live in the woods near Melbourne. That is, until last year when his parents were captured. He tried to survive there alone for some time, but it was becoming more dangerous for him with every passing day, and so he moved here to Brisbane. So, yeah, it's like this, he concludes. Sometimes I hunt, sometimes I steal, apparently. I know it's not good, but it's just how it is, you know? Yeah, I say while Aiden is nodding thoughtfully. That kind of sucks. How old are you, by the way? 14? His voice cracks for the second time that evening. Yeah, I repeat. Must be tough. Let's take him in, Aiden suddenly says. What? What? Hunter's voice cracks again. Matt, do I really need to explain? He says, coming slightly closer. Kid's got no home. His parents are missing, and apparently he has the same culinary preferences as you. I make a long exhale, pinching the bridge of my nose. This will cause so many problems. Legal troubles, rearranging my and Aiden's schedules, looking after a potentially unruly teenager. All right, I sigh, finally turning to Hunter. You can sleep on the couch in the living room for tonight. We'll figure something better out tomorrow. And with that, I turn around and head to the bathroom to finally wash my hands. But on my second step, Hunter suddenly calls out, Hey, I'm really sorry, but, he says quietly. I turn around and raise an eyebrow. Can you take these off of me? Adopting a cryptid dog man. How cute. And also a good cause, saving the cryptid from the dangers. Also, you had you still went in a completely different direction with the cryptids, which was one of my favorite things with the cryptids, is like everybody has come with such a different thing. Also, one of my favorite things in general with the LMIAY is just everybody is so different, and getting a taste, like a little sample of everybody's version of creativity, everybody's brain in this different way, is my favorite. Very nice, Faye. Also, your stories, I don't know if your work is generally meant to be more lighthearted, but at least what you've submitted here is more lighthearted, and I love it. The last story here is from Valorie Beaudyka. As Kaz sat in the dim morning light, picking the small padlock on the back of the iron muzzle, fixed like a horse's bridle around Arachne's head, she considered the uniqueness of her circumstances. This wasn't the first time Kaz had woken up hungover in a jail cell. Nah, that, as it turned out, was a surprisingly common occurrence in the life of a bounty killer. Less common, however, was waking up in a jail cell with a quick mutant prostitute whose face was muzzled by a spiked witch's bridle. Kaz couldn't say that she knew Arachne well, in either sense of the word, but she'd frequented the billiard room of Bassett's saloon enough times that she instantly recognized her. Arachne didn't have the kind of face that one could easily forget. 6 eyes where there ought to have been 2, and a mouth full of fanged teeth, the front 2 of which vaguely resembled the jackknife pincers of a spider. But more than all of that, she was a comey girl of 24 and carried herself with a reserved dignity that made her well liked among Margot's other line girls. Faith was especially taken with her, and could talk endlessly of how kind and friendly she was. Her sermons of adoration, her decidedly non-platonic feelings were enough to make Kaz hate the girl without ever knowing her. So, when she turned up in a jail cell, huddled on the floor beside Kaz's bunk like a kicked dog on a wool blanket draped over her shoulders, her body covered in bruises and freshly sutured lacerations. It provoked in her a sadistic curiosity to know what Arachne had done to deserve being worked over the way that she had. Had she robbed a client, seduced and spurned a vengeful lover? Somewhere in the depths of Arachne's jealous hatred, she'd hoped that it had been discovered that Arachne was the anonymous killer that had been terrorizing the region for months, and that she'd soon meet her fate at the end of a rope. With a click, the padlock opened, and the iron muzzle fell from Arachne's face. Before Kaz even knew what was happening, Arachne was suddenly wrapped tightly around her waist, sobbing into her shudder. There, it's going to be all right. Kaz was taken aback by Arachne's incoherent sobbing. The pathetic and contemptible display was almost enough to make the bounty hunter feel an ounce of pity for the woman who had supplanted her in the heart of her beloved. Dead Kaz, and I've killed him. Killed who? Kaz wrapped her arms around the sobbing girl and stroked her hair, performing her best approximation of affection. Billy's dead, Kaz. Billy? Kaz's eyes went wide. As in Billy Dolan? Arachne nodded, and Kaz felt the blood drain from her face, an aching hollow feeling that Kaz could only describe at what a tree infested with termites must feel like root in her gut. Billy Dolan was the last living son of Senator, cattle baron, and close personal friend of Sheriff Judge Holden Cross and Harrier Queen Pearl Hart themselves, John Ezekiel Marmon Dolan. Though a moment ago, the fantasy that Arachne might hang for murder brought sadistic glee, the reality of such a fate brought only horror. Kaz grabbed Arachne's head and tilted it back to meet her gaze. I need you to tell me what happened, Arachne. Why is Billy Dolan dead? Arachne blinked the tears from her black eyes and wiped away a dribble of snot and spit with her wrist. It happened 2 days ago, Arachne sniffled. While you were out hunting the Willard twins, Billy, the girl gestured to her face with a sob. He was shy and it was cute and I laughed. Kaz's heart dropped into a churning pit of anger and grief in her stomach. And he attacked you, didn't? Kaz wanted to scream and cuss and berate the stupid girl. It was the second worst mistake a working girl could make, a mistake for which Kaz had paid dearly in a previous life, and for which received no comfort. Faith tried to stop him and he started strangling her and I shot him. But you weren't here when I brought in the Bollards. He weren't dead yet. I only shot him and I only gut shot him. And he died last night. Stringfellow, Arachne sobbed, and Kaz hugged her tight with the strength of a she-bear hugging her cub. Laughing at it, John, was the second worst mistake a working girl could make. But the worst mistake was defending oneself against some rich son of a bitch like the son of Ezekiel Dolan. It don't matter what the law says or how justified you were. There is no such thing as self-defense against a rich man's son. Do you? Arachne sobbed. Do you think that they're gonna hang me, Kaz? Shame boiled and ate away at Kaz's gut as the reality of Arachne's situation sunk in. There was nothing that she could do or say but lie. I don't know, kid. I don't know. What a life. What a life. This does a good job of expressing them having a relationship, and also like a relationship of the past that has been established before. They're not just like fresh faces to meeting each other, but also the hard life that Kaz has, and it feels like that Kaz is specifically hardened because she has experienced some of what Arachne is already experiencing or has experienced, has learned those hard lessons and sees maybe some of herself in Arachne, which is also what makes her hate her, other than just being jealous of some of the attention that Arachne gets. And at least that's what I see in the reading of their interactions between one another in this scene. Excellent job of building the tension of the expression and of the weakness and fear that is in Arachne. She comes off as younger, as less experienced than Kaz. And so excellent job with the characterization. With that said, those are the stories of the month. Let me know which one was your favorite down in the comments below. All of the people who have left their socials or anything to follow them to find more of their work will be linked down the description below. All of the names of the people featured today will also be down below, so go and look for them. With that said, have a great week. Happy July, and don't die. To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle, if you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women.
As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution: the mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you've done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just because it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right. But what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.